Now Pavle's sad, and all it took was 8 kills under his belt. Well everyone, we have been everywhere and seen everything. We have all the supplies we'll ever need, and the war should be ending very soon if the radio is to be believed. Honestly, we could literally spend the next week not scavenging at all and staying home, but I'd really like to take a look at what's inside the military basement first. I'd also like to provide medical supplies to the man at the garage and the people at the hospital, so we'll be hitting those places as well. We're going to travel around to some familiar locations over the next week, grabbing whatever's left and trading with whoever we can. The crazy surplus of weapons that we'll be collecting from the military base will get us whatever we want in that regard. The danger should be gone in there now, but all we really need Marco to bring with him is a crowbar. If there are any survivors, I'm sure we could just grab one of the many assault rifles in there and use it. Let's check that basement. We snatched up a few important supplies along the way, but what we really came here for is down here. Time to put that crowbar to good use. Now to see what is behind door number 1. Oh, wow. That's practically our entire ammo supply back home found in one cupboard. Sheesh, can you imagine if we had the confidence to take this place down sooner? Figure for good measure we might as well take a broken helmet to repair at home. I know we won't be getting any use out of it, but holy cow, are you kidding me? Gee, that's mine, I'm taking it, all of it, I don't care. Jeez, there's another floor to this place too. Another locked cabinet. I'm willing to bet there's even more ammo waiting for us. Yeah, that figures. Oh well, time to open up door number 3. I have no words. This is insane. I'll take it. Again, I'm probably taking a hell of a lot more than we'll ever need at this point, but screw it. It's the principle of the thing, given we've been worrying about ammo all this time. Alright, we'll make a quick sweep of the area, see what we can find, but I'm pretty sure if we have any extra days, we'll just be coming back here one more time anyway. Well, since we have everything, we'll probably be doing a lot of frivolous trading. And by that I mean we'll probably be exchanging all these guns for things like herbs, cigarettes, tobacco, coffee, you know, things to just kind of reward everyone for their efforts. After doing so well, I think we all deserve to indulge. Alright, we're gonna check the upstairs floor and then we'll head out to lend a helping hand to the neighboring areas at night. Oh, they have medicine. I figure we'll grab some extra. I'm sure the men at the garage will appreciate it. Here we are, a stack of 2. That should do it. Well, we're good and finished here. If we have some extra days, we'll come back and grab the rest of the guns. For now, we'll head home. We've got some medical supplies to hand out. Oh no, a raid. Will we ever have enough ammo to protect ourselves? No, seriously, now we have absolutely everything we'll ever need to survive the war. And hey, look, Pavle's already gotten over his sadness. I guess having him play that guitar yesterday really did help. Anyway, for the next several days, we'll be waiting to see if we have any visitors and just kind of creating medical supplies and cigarettes for our deeds ahead of us. And there's our visitor for today. Oh hey, it's the neighbors that gave us some vegetables. They're looking for us to return the favor. I think we're more than capable of that. Hello, it's us again. The military intensified shelling of our area and we decided we need to reinforce our improvised shelter in the cellar. We've got the necessary materials, but we could use an extra pair of hands. Maybe you could help us. Yeah, they came to the right place. Marin's plenty capable of that, so we'll send him with them to help. Our deed is done and some supplies were made. Let's end the day and get help to the hospital now. We returned to the hospital with a few bandages and meds when we were stopped by one of the guards asking for help. Apparently while we were gone, the place had been shelled again, and a lot of extra medical supplies were buried under the rubble. We were asked to return them to the surgeon if we could find them. Had we been desperate for supplies, we could have easily taken them for ourselves, but we didn't do that. Using our shovel that we originally brought with us for self-defense, we dug through the rubble and retrieved more bandages and meds and brought them back to the surgeon. By trading him both those and our own supplies, we nearly cleaned him out of all other supplies in exchange. We could have carried more if we had the bag space, but we did our part and returned home to the next day. The next day, Marin had returned home from helping the neighbors and brought home a bottle of pure alcohol in the process. While we cooked up some more supplies, Franco paid us a visit, and our lucrative weapons stash nearly cleaned him out of everything he had. Frankly, I just found it amusing to have all that in the first place. Now that the hospital had been helped, it was time to bring our supplies on over to the needy father and son at the garage. For 2 meds and 2 bandages, we got things like coffee, water, herbs, and tobacco. Then we even gave him an assault rifle for a nice bundle of weapon parts too, just to be extra nice. Once done, we headed on back. We didn't have any visitors for the 39th day, so we just cranked out a few supplies and hit the night again. This time we just went back to the military outpost to pick up whatever else we could find, specifically the rifles we left. You know we don't need them, but sometimes I just can't help myself. Once again, there weren't any visitors today, and the radio didn't have anything new to report other than the weather being nicer. So, once again, we headed into the night. Tonight I got a little curious and headed to the semi-detached house. If you recall, we went there to find a really pathetic amount of trade items available to us. It had been some time since we'd been there, so I came to see if he had improved on his selection, and indeed he did. Very much so, in fact. 2 herbal meds and a handgun later got us a bunch of coffee, herbs, cigarettes, and water. There wasn't a heck of a lot of other reasons to come back here. I just wanted to see if this guy ever got around to stocking his wares again. Today, Franco stopped by, and seeing as how we've used a lot of fuel for the resource building, we grabbed some extra and some wood and some herbs for an assault rifle and a bottle of moonshine. The radio also informed us that the peacekeeping forces are en route to Pagorn as we speak. That means the ceasefire should happen any day now. Ever since we fed the starving artist and the decrepit squat, Marco wondered if the men would ever last any more than a few days after. So being I was curious once again, we headed over there to see how he's doing. Turns out the guy was still alive and wandering the place. Even though we brought some food for him just in case, he didn't seem to ask for any more than the one we had given him originally. Also, I had left out the fact that there was a grated door upstairs this whole time, but seeing as how the description of the area had so little resources left, I didn't really come back to cut it open with any high expectations. Turns out I was right. There was just even more sugar, and there was already a ton of it laying around as is. Oh well, not all grated doors have extreme value in them, I suppose. Our curiosity is satisfied for the most part. We've helped everyone we possibly could, and we even had the neighbors that we helped pay us another visit. Let's see what they had to say. We've come to see how you're doing, and to thank you for your help. It feels much safer to sleep in our own reinforced shelter, especially since several houses in the neighboring area were hit by artillery shells. We were saving this bottle for some special occasion, but we discussed it and decided to give it over to you instead. Well, they couldn't have brought a celebratory bottle of moonshine over at a more appropriate time, because guess what, everybody? We've made it. Day 3, Father and Child. Marco helped a man who was wounded by a sniper while coming home to his sick child. Day 4, Plea for help. Our neighbor felt unsafe and asked us to help her board up her windows. We did that. Day 8, Blood on our hands. Pavle killed a bandit. Day 9, Desperate cry for protection. A frightened neighbor asked us to protect her against bandits. Bruno agreed to help her. Day 15, Buried alive. A shell hit a nearby tenement and some people were trapped under the rubble. Bruno helped pull them out. Day 17, tough decision. Pavle took other people's supplies. Day 19, fight for survival. Pavle encountered several bandits and managed to kill them. Day 20, saving life. Our neighbor's children asked us for medication for her. We shared the little we had with them. Day 25, hungry children. The children we had helped earlier came to ask us for some food. We shared with them. Day 34, violent skirmish. Several soldiers were killed by Pavle. Day 37, neighbors in need. Our friendly neighbors came to ask us for help in reinforcing their shelter. We were happy to help them. Day 42, ceasefire. The long-awaited ceasefire finally came into force, eventually putting an end to the fighting in Pagorin. Those who managed to survive the war in Groznovia would never forget it. Surviving the war, Marin set about finding the boy who once brightened his day. His efforts proved futile, so he rebuilt his house and kept the action figure in his shop window. And one winter afternoon, the entrance bell rang, and the familiar smile had once again filled Marin's workshop and his life with light. After the ceasefire, Bruno set off in looking for his friend. Her neighborhood saw heavy fighting, and the majority of the housing had been reduced to ruins, but she found shelter in the basement, which somehow held. Despite the hardships she managed to survive, she was happy to see Bruno alive as well. They remain friends to this day. Pavle survived the war. He tried to find his wife and son, but despite his best efforts, he could not trace them. He decided to stay in Pagorin, hoping his son would find him there one day. Years have passed, and he is still waiting. After the war, Marco found his family, who managed to avoid the worst atrocities hidden away by a friendly country family. They came back to Pagorin along with other people. Normalcy returned to the city. Buildings were rebuilt, schools and shops reopened, life went on. Franco became president. Okay, that last one's just me having a little fun. Should have happened though, if you asked me. But in all seriousness, I wanted to thank everyone for joining me on this little adventure. This is the first ever playthrough I've done as an experiment, and this was the perfect game to try it on. It has elements in it that really keep you guessing, situations that leave you extremely tense, and outcomes that can really jerk your emotions around through sheer game mechanics alone. By now, if you've followed in this journey from beginning to end, you should know whether or not you'll enjoy playing this game or not. If you think you will, then do yourself a favor and pick this game up on Steam now. We may have survived from beginning to end, but that was only a fraction of what you'll come up against. There are a dozen different survivors to play as, there are many new locations to see, and many familiar ones with entirely different outcomes within. One example of this is St. Mary's Church. We had to deal with several poorly armed bandits taking over the place, but some sets of survivors have the chance to find the church unharmed, and Pastor Oleg very much alive. Some games have you started off in the middle of the winter season on day 1, and there's an entirely different shelter you can have the chance to be put in at random. It's a fantastic game, and I simply can't recommend it enough. Thanks again for joining me. It's really hard to say right now when I plan to do another one of these playthroughs and what game it would be, but if I ever do another one, it'll be more likely to be on an alternate channel. I realize this series being put on my main channel may have scared a lot of people into thinking this was the main focus now, but I assure you it was just a fun little experiment. It was to give you guys a little something extra to watch while I pulled together the assets and worked on the new Gmod Idia box. That series has become insanely more demanding to make over the years. So, see you again sometime for another playthrough. Until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Also, Franco for President.